Hello, and welcome to Zen and Iron. My name is Kozan. I am a martial artist, avid gym goer, and student of 16th generation samurai Zen Takai. In each episode, we'll explore a concept from samurai culture, first in a historical context, then see how we can apply and adapt it to our fitness journey, and more broadly, to modern daily life. Some disclaimers, since we have to do this for legal reasons. This content is not intended as medical advice. Always consult a healthcare professional before implementing any new exercise, diet, or health regimen. Find what works for you. These techniques and practices work for me. Your results may vary. Always perform exercises in a safe and controlled manner. Use proper form to avoid injury, and seek guidance from a qualified trainer if needed. Spiritual practices and meditation techniques are not a substitute for professional mental health care. Consult a licensed therapist or counselor if you are experiencing mental health issues. And then finally, this is my personal perspective on what I've been taught. Interpretations vary. Seek out additional sources to gain a broader understanding. Advice is like clothes. Try it on. If it fits, great, wear it. If not, try something else. Some benefits. Since I began training and applying Zen principles to both my fitness journey and daily life at large, since I used to suffer pretty severely from anxiety and panic attacks, I have not had a single panic or anxiety episode since I began training. I've noticed more focus and I'm more disciplined. I have more mental clarity. Especially from the gym, I have increased strength, emotional resilience, greater balance, better goal setting and attainment, and of course, spiritual growth. Throughout the course of this series, we will be covering many different concepts from Eastern philosophy. We will be going over workouts, exercises, and training routines. We'll cover self-improvement and personal development. We will go over recipes and nutrition, meditation techniques, some esoteric concepts like chi, chakras, and secret teachings in martial arts. And we'll also cover examples of a lot of these concepts from media and pop culture. So, that's a little brief introduction. Let's actually get into the nitty-gritty. And in order to kind of understand samurai culture, we need to understand feudal Japan. In this episode, we will cover some major points of Japanese history. We'll define and explain feudalism. We'll give some definitions, some important terms like what is a samurai. We'll cover some myths and misconceptions. And finally, we will tie it all together with how Zen fits in to samurai culture. Some major points of Japanese history. In the 6th century, iron tools become widespread in Japan. Prior to the Iron Age, it was the Bronze Age. So iron is important. Iron tools are much, much more durable than bronze or stone. In the 6th century, we also see the introduction of Buddhism to Japan, and this is when swordsmithing becomes prominent. Around this time, we also see the worship of Inari, or O-Inari, one of the major Shinto gods. There are an estimated 30,000 shrines across Japan dedicated to the worship of Inari. Inari is the kami of foxes, fertility, rice, tea, sake, agriculture, industry, general prosperity, and worldly success. And then in the 16th century, Inari becomes the patron of blacksmiths and the protector of warriors. So Inari is probably one of the most important kami in terms of worship throughout Japanese history. Feudalism. This is the hierarchy. It is a class system. And it is prominent in Japan from 1185 to 1868. To put that into context, the United States Civil War ended in 1865. So even after the Civil War in the US, Japan still has feudalism. And so we see the emperor at the top, kind of just a figurehead, then the shogun, then daimyo, then samurai, then ronin, then peasants, artisans, and craftsmen, and then at the bottom of the hierarchy are merchants. They are at the bottom because they do not produce anything. Craftsmen are above them. It should be noted that this pyramid is just to demonstrate the hierarchy. This is not the population. We'll get into that in a little bit. But let's define some terms here. Bushi. Bushi means warrior. Literally, the character is for military man. Bushi is a term for anyone who fights for a living and carries a sword. It's a term that can be applied to the shogun, samurai, and ronin. Samurai is a specific type of bushi. Samurai comes from the Japanese verb saburao, which means to serve. They were hereditary nobility, that means it was all in families, and they were a ruling class responsible for governance, law enforcement, and military service. And then this is key, they were paid a salary in rice. Ronin, meaning drifter or wanderer, literally is wave person. The characters mean wave person or person of the waves. They were masterless samurai. You could call them freelancers, but they did not have a salary. They were not in the retainer of a lord, whether through losing their lord to death, becoming disgraced, any number of circumstances. Ronin lived difficult lives. Many resorted to banditry or mercenary work, and contrary to a lot of popular culture, most Ronin were probably not wandering heroes like Musashi. It was a very tough life. They lived as outcasts, and it wasn't exactly glamorous. Myths and misconceptions. There was no single unifying Bushido code that everyone agreed on and honored. Different clans and families had their own interpretation of what constitutes honorable behavior, and a lack of centralized power meant that training and education looked very different region to region. Duty and loyalty was often dependent on ever-changing political and social context. The term Bushido really became prominent after samurai, after the shogunate, after feudalism is kind of abolished. And we see this in Nitobe Inazo's book, Bushido, the Soul of Japan. Wasn't even written for the Japanese people. Initially, it was written and published in English. And it really depicts a romanticized version of the samurai and glosses over a lot of the complexities of reality. Finally, we come to Zen. Where does Zen fit into all of this? So, remember the hierarchy, the pyramid here. Let's go to the Bushi. You have peasants, artisans, and craftsmen. Peasants, farmers, comprise 85 to 90% of the population. These are untrained, unarmed, and mostly uneducated individuals. Bushi, so the people who carried swords, comprise less than 7% of the population. Even a relatively poor samurai would be vastly more wealthy than a peasant. And by comparison, they are extremely well educated, very well trained from youth, and carrying the most lethal pieces of military technology of the time. Swords are rare, and a sword is power. If you are coming out of the Iron Age, yes, you have iron tools, but It takes a very, very well skilled and well trained swordsmith to make an actual useful sword. Swords are rare. Carrying a sword, carrying a piece of lethal technology, gives you power over pretty much anyone who would stand to challenge you. If someone is unarmed or carrying farming tools, as the case may have been, and you have a sword that is vastly more lethal than a stick or a hoe or a shovel, you have power. So, how do you balance this power? You instill into the samurai class, the Bushi class, a sense of extreme discipline and loyalty. Throughout most of history, the majority of the population are starving. Food is scarce. That is why there are 30,000 shrines dedicated to the kami of agriculture and rice. So, to be paid a salary of rice is important, right? You're getting sustenance. How does Zen Buddhism fit into all of this? Zen Buddhism plus Bushido equals the ultimate warrior. You have highly effective, incredibly loyal, very disciplined fighters. You have terminators. You have the ability to exercise extreme violence balanced with calm, focused detachment. How does that help us in the gym? We can apply that fighting spirit, that discipline, that dedication to the gym. And I personally have seen huge upsides of this. I have taken to meditating prior to all of my gym sessions. And then going in, I am applying as much of that mindfulness as possible. It's been immensely helpful. I would go as far as to say it has changed my life for the better across the board. I am happier, healthier, stronger, more balanced. I've seen this permeate all the different aspects of my life. I feel like my relationships are better. I feel like I deal a lot less with anxiety. I have found it incredibly calming. And it's just helped me find my inner strength and bring that manifest outwardly. So this mindfulness and meditation I have found incredibly helpful. And maybe you will too. So if you've enjoyed this, please consider liking, subscribing, and commenting. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or any topics you would like to see covered, I look forward to hearing from you. Until next time, train with honor, live with purpose, and continue to forge your path.